Got a few things to cover in this video. Sam Morsy is apparently going to sign for us as a free agent. The former Ipswich captain. Might be a couple more players coming in as well, one of them on loan. And also the club have released the latest finances as well. We'll cover all of it in this video. The first thing to cover then is Sam Morsy, broken by, I think, Ian Kay and Dan Carter on Twitter, but I did hear about this a little bit before as well. It was also mentioned on the Forever Bristol City podcast yesterday. I'm recording this on Monday the 22nd. So yeah, it looks like we're in for Sam Morsy, formerly of Ipswich, captained them, I believe, to promotion a few seasons ago, 34 years old. I think this is really good business. I've seen a few people saying negatively about it due to his age, the lack of ability to press and stuff like that. I just think if you're signing a player in as a free agent, you're going to give him a good chance to train with you, maybe work with you. Apparently he's not been in training with us yet, but I don't know. We'll see. I think it's a good pickup. He's been there and done it in terms of what this club wants to do. And when you look at the situation of our midfield at the moment, you know, you've got Williams and Bird both really struggling to get fit. I'm not sure. I'm dubious as to whether we'll actually see Joe Williams again this season. Max Bird obviously really struggling with his calf. I've mentioned that on this channel. A centre midfielder in, I think, is almost essential in January. And this guy has been there and done it. And I think he's a really good pickup. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. But yeah, I think Morsy is going to be a really good sign-in. Even if he doesn't need to start for us every week, just to provide a little bit of competition and help to Bird and Randall, I think it'd be really good. And there's also, talking about him being 34 and whatever, I actually think it's a good thing. I think there's room for one player of that age profile in your team. I look back to, and I'm not comparing them because I think Morsy is better, but you look back to when, Nigel Pearson brought in Matty James and Andy King. I thought the impact they had on the team was really good. And I think there's just something to be said for an older player with a bit of guile and life experience and someone who has been there with a club and done what you want to achieve. Everyone's going to look up to him as a bit of an example and a leader, despite him, obviously, Jason Knight, I'm sure, is going to stay as the captain. But I can't really say enough good things about this signing. I'm really happy with it, to be honest. And, I've been critical at some points on this channel about the club, but if they manage to get Morsy in, I think it's really good business. The next bit of news is, well, it was tweeted by BCFC Shags, who I like to think is a pretty good source of inside Bristol City information. I think I'm breaking any rules. It was a public tweet. So he's suggesting, or she, could be a she, don't know who's behind the account, suggesting that George Earthy back on loan is being worked on. I think he's not really in Nuno's plans at West Ham, and I think a loan is probably something that will happen for him in January. When you look at our squad, I don't think it's essential that we bring him in, but you've got Mehmeti, who could be off in the summer potentially, and also when you think of those two number 10s, particularly with Max Bird struggling, you've got Stokes, but I think Earthy could help, provide some competition for that position as well. I don't necessarily think he's essential, but I think if you can get him in fairly simply, he's obviously got a relationship with the club already. We know what we're getting with him. We've worked it up before with West Ham. I think the move is a smart one. I don't think it's an essential one. Much Morsy, I think, is more of a necessity given the players we have than Earthy. But I wouldn't be against Earthy coming back. I don't think he's exactly what we need, though. I still think we need a number 9. We're waiting as well. We'll talk about Roundup in a second. Scrap that. The other bit of news is Cornick and Bell. So Cornick could be going to Wickham on loan, and Bell could be coming back as well. That's something that's been touted. I don't know if it's true. I'm just sharing something I've seen on Twitter, but that could be interesting if it comes about. And that leads me on to the second to last bit of news. We'll mention another bit of news in a second, but yeah, we've got our finances that have come out. Bristol City have apparently made a pre-tax loss of £18.6 million to the month ending June 30th, 2025. 15.3 million was the loss from the previous year. That difference is apparently attributable to the lower profit on player sales. Obviously, Semenyo Scott money, I think, was flowing in. That's all finished now, so I don't think we're getting any money from those. Obviously, some of the biggest, probably the biggest sales in our club's history. I'm not a financial expert. I don't know what's really going on with the finances of other football clubs as well. When I went on Radio Bristol a couple of weeks ago ahead of the Millwall game, they had a Millwall fan dial in, tell us they were on about a £20 million loss every year as well. I don't think you go into football club ownership to turn a profit, do you? I don't think it's a particularly profitable operation. But the only thing I would question is, all fans want money from the club, which is, money spent on player transfers from the club, but put it into context that the club is still making this, losing this amount of money every year. The only thing that it would call into question for me is, where are Bristol City spending money, and where could we spend it more efficiently, or just stop spending it entirely? I don't know. I feel like the way that the Bristol Sport Group is run, Ashton Gate is one operation, the rugby team, the women's team has been sold, hasn't it? The basket, all of that is a little bit of a, I don't know, not an accounting mess, but it's an interesting one. As I understand it, we, for example, do not own Ashton Gate and we pay rent for the stadium. Wouldn't surprise me if the stadium, there was to pay for the stadium upgrades, money was borrowed, and it's probably still being paid off now. So there may be some interest payments in there. It's all a little bit interesting, and I think the further you go down into it, the more it might get a bit confusing, to be honest. I don't know. I'm not a finance expert, like I said, but that's the one thing it would call into question for me. We'll stop talking about boring numbers. What I think this leads me to being a little bit worried about is the situation we're in the summer. Like we all know the club's for sale, right? Steve Lansdown has publicly said that the club is for sale for the right buyer. We're making a loss. To make up the money, we're getting 11 million for Semenyo if he comes in. So he'll sell for 65 million, should be sold in January, I think. We'll get 11 million pounds if that happens. That covers some of the loss, but there's still 7.6 to go. That mainly suggests that there could be someone else going in the summer to make up the accounts. Could we sell Jason Knight in the summer? Could we potentially sell an Anis or a Sykes in January to make up for these losses? Something like this could happen based on the accounts. So yeah, boring financial talk, but that's what it ultimately leads to. I don't think we're going to be splashing the cash in the transfer market, and we might even be selling players. The one bit of news that I haven't covered, because I think he's due for a scan today, is VTech. There's a lot going around on Twitter about what is up with Roundup VTech. The scan today will happen. We'll get some knowledge on what will be the case. If we hear any news, I'll leave it in the comment section. I'm just not going to be able to record another one of these when the news probably breaks. He's done some sort of damage to his knee. It's the exact extent of it, I think we don't know. The physios can test it somewhat by hand, but I think you need a scan to confirm the damage. Rumours are it's a medial collateral ligament, but the extent of the damage is not known. I'll put it in the comments as soon as we get it, or you could follow me on X at RobinNestBCFC, and I will share any news as soon as it comes out on VTech. But yeah, that's kind of the only thing I feel I haven't covered in this video. If you enjoyed it, found it useful, leave a like rating. Let me know in the comments what you think of MORSY and EARTHY. And yeah, I think that's about everything. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, do subscribe to the Robin's Nest, which should be just here on your screen. And I'll see you in the next one. Have a happy Christmas, by the way, if I don't make another one before Christmas.